Hey guys, it's Katie. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad that you're here. Today we're going to be talking about my favorite season to read in, which is fall. We're going to be going over my fall book recs and my fall TBR. I also love fall fashion. You can just be so comfortable and cozy, but also stylish at the same time. And right now you're probably thinking, wow, Katie, those glasses just tie your whole look together. These glasses are actually from the kind sponsor of today's video, which is Pear Eyewear. Watch this. Yeah, okay. I'm literally performing close-up glasses magic right now for you. Pear Eyewear offers high-quality, affordable glasses that you can add your prescription to or add blue light, and you guys know I am a big blue light glasses girly. The ones I'm wearing right now are the Murphy base frame in crystal clear. I personally chose these because I just really like having bigger glasses. I think they look nice on my face shape and are flattering for me, but they have a ton of different styles to choose from, so you can find a pair that best suits you. This is one of the top frames that I have in indigo, and it comes off and on so easily because they have these little magnetic strips right here, which makes it super user-friendly to swap out styles. So I can wear this top frame if I'm in the mood for something a little bit more colorful and fun, but if I'm in the mood for something a little bit more natural, a little bit more demure, some might say, I can wear this top frame in the shade Tortoise. I really like these. They're just classic. My personal favorite though, and if you wear prescription glasses, you are going to eat this up. You're gonna love this, is the Sun Top in the Tortoise. It's a little dark in here now. Okay, so if you have a prescription and need to wear glasses at all times, it's just so easy. You don't have to swap out for sunglasses and you can still see, and it's just as simple as that. And Pear Eyewear literally makes the glasses buying process so simple and easy. There will be no more anxiety-inducing trips to the glasses store. The first thing that you do is try on base frames in their virtual online feature, so you can see what frame suits your face shape best. Again, I chose the Murphy because I like bigger frames on myself, and I can just pick out my glasses in the comfort of my own home, which is so convenient and so easy. And they're gonna select your choice of top frames. And again, the top frames are so nice and convenient because instead of buying a completely different pair of glasses and doubling the price, you can get some top frames for a completely different style for a fraction of the normal cost. Once you pick your top frames, then they get delivered to your door, and it's really as simple as that. If you guys are interested in getting a pair of glasses from Pear Eyewear, go ahead and shop using the link down below for 15% off of their already amazing and affordable prices. Thank you so much once again to Pear Eyewear for sponsoring this video. We're gonna go ahead and start off with my fall book recs. Now I get asked all the time, Katie, I'm new to fantasy. What book should I start out with? What's an easy gateway into fantasy? And this book would definitely be at the top of my recommendation list for your first fantasy read, and it's The Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. I read this a few months ago and I ate this up. It is a dual POV enemies to lovers fantasy book, and it is just giving everything that you want it to give. And here we are following our two main characters, Gideon and Rune, and we live in a world where witches are outcast from society. And Gideon is a witch hunter, and he's been searching for the Crimson Moth, which is a witch vigilante, for a really long time, and they just can't seem to find her. And our other main character, Rune, is a socialite by day. She loves everything frilly, and she loves talking about dresses and parties and all these like vain things, but by night she's actually the Crimson Moth, the witch vigilante. And the plot is just so good. The way these two characters interact is so good. All the side characters are also super interesting. There was also a twist that I really enjoyed in this book that I saw coming a little bit, but I almost figured it out as the main character did, and it wasn't super obvious to me at first either, which I love whenever books kind of keep me guessing a little bit, but I also have theories and can kind of be right sometimes because, let's be honest, who doesn't love being right? And I really enjoyed the setup of this book. The second one comes out in February, which I'm really excited for, and I cannot recommend this more as a first fantasy read. Next up, we have a mystery, which is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I actually read this with my book club and we all really enjoyed it. If you're wanting something that gives murder mystery dinner party, this is the book for you. I don't know what era this would technically be in, but it's in like the olden days. I don't want to say Regency, but picture like a fancy masquerade, okay? And there will be a death, and the main character's job is to figure out who the killer is, but he's in sort of a time loop, so it makes it a little bit hard to figure it out. And there's also so many like extra agendas of side characters, and there's games that everybody's playing, and he also wakes up in a different body every single day, and he only gets one day with each body. And this is more of like a gothic mystery. I really enjoy this, and I am not like an adult mystery girly, and this is an adult mystery. Like sometimes I can barely even handle YA, and the twists and turns in this were super interesting and kind of like fun. It was very different than a lot of the other mysteries I read, just because I think of like the Masquerade was kind of like a different theming as well, and I really liked how it was kind of like back in the day and not present day. And I would really recommend this to you if you really like a mystery thriller but you just want like a different vibe. Like this is more gothic, I feel like is the perfect word for it. Okay, then we have a romance. This is something I read recently too, and I really enjoyed it. It's called Love at First Book by Jen McKinley. The plot of this is just so cozy and so fall. It's basically about our main character who ends up moving to Ireland because she gets a job opportunity there to work at a bookstore and also be like the assistant to her favorite author and help her write the conclusion to her favorite series, which is just so cool and is literally like a dream. Like who wouldn't want to do knew that. And she also ends up meeting a pretty cute bookseller there, who of course has an Irish accent because he's from Ireland, which we absolutely love. I listened to the audiobook of this one, and let me say, it did not disappoint. It gave all the cozy, cutesy fall vibes. There's also a little bit of found family too, and a lot of realistic elements. And it honestly made me tear up a little bit because it is a little bit sad at the ending, but it has a great theme, a great story, and I just really enjoyed it. So if you're looking for a romance with great cozy vibes with a little bit more to it for the fall, this one's for you. This is probably the only Emily Henry book that I would recommend for fall, and it is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. And this, we're following our main character Nora, and then our other main character is Charlie, but we don't get his perspective, we just get Nora's perspective. And Nora and her sister just need to reconnect. They need to go off the grid a little bit, especially because Nora is a Miss Workaholic. She works in the book publishing industry. So they go to this cute little quaint small town where one of the books that Nora published is actually set, and none other than Charlie Lastra is also there, who also works in the book industry, and they just end up doing a lot of cute small town cozy things. And I honestly wish that I did read this in the fall instead of the spring and summertime when I did end up reading it, because it just gives the perfect like cozy small town vibes, because they're just like working on their books, they're reading, they're literally in a small town that a book's been written about, so you know it gives the best vibes. And Emily Henry always goes a little bit deeper too. If you have sisters, I feel like you would really enjoy this book and really relate to our characters. And Charlie Lastra, the man that you are. Okay, next up, I cannot do a fall book recommendations video without talking about this series. It is, of course, the Harry Potter series. Now, to those of you who have read this, you might be like, Katie, why are you recommending this? Everybody buy this. No, they haven't. No, they haven't. So let me put you on. You've definitely probably heard about the Harry Potter series, but this is a classic YA fantasy series that just gives all the magical vibes. I'm not gonna go too in depth about the story because most people know like the general story, but you're just following these kids and their life at a magical boarding school, and it's just so magical and whimsical and fun, and I absolutely adore this series. The tone of the first three is a lot different than the tone of the rest of the books, and I think my favorite thing about when I read this series for the very first time was watching the books right after the movies. It's almost like a little reward, and you get to literally visualize everything that you read about. This first one isn't even that long. I think it's under 300 pages. Such a quick and easy, fun fall atmospheric read, and I just highly recommend this series to anybody who hasn't read it yet, especially just reading the first book. Just start it with the first one, and I promise you, you're gonna eat up the rest. Next up, we have the Heartstopper series. This is the first one, but I've read all 5 of them that are currently out, and I'm waiting patiently on that 6th one, you best believe. And the reason I'm recommending this specifically for the fall is because of the fact that it is at a school, and I don't know, anything that's in the school, because it's like back to school time in the fall, just instantly gives me fall vibes. This is actually an MM romance in their graphic novels. What I love about a graphic novel is it's so easy to visualize everything, and it just makes the characters feel more real to me because I can see them in their emotions. If you guys have any other graphic novel recommendations, please let me know down below because I eat them up. Now this is following Nick and Charlie. Charlie is openly gay and out at his school, and Nick is on the rugby team, and they end up meeting, and things just kind of go from there. It's just a really precious coming of age story, and I just ate these up. If you're looking for a book that exemplifies the feeling of having a first love, this is definitely one of the ones for you. And if you're scared of a graphic novel, please just pick up the first one, maybe from the library or online as an ebook, and give it a try. I promise you, they will not disappoint. I cannot do a fall recommendation video and talk about fantasy without talking about these bad boys up here. We have the ACOTAR series and the Throne of Glass series by Miss Sarah J. Maas. If you haven't gotten into the Maasverse, I would definitely recommend reading ACOTAR first. It's a lot more romance heavy, but the plot and the found family of it is just like no other. After that, go to the Throne of Glass series. It's a lot more plot heavy, but the plot is just incredible, and the characters are incredible, and it literally feels like they are real. ACOTAR is also written in first person, and Throne of Glass is written in third person, and you get a ton of different perspectives in here, but it just adds to the story, and it's not confusing at all in my opinion. They're also both in worlds with fae or fairies. These are iconic, and I love both of these series so much. They both have such special places in my heart. They're 5-star series for me. I wouldn't recommend going into either of these as your first fantasy series, but once you read a few and dip your toe into the water, then go ahead and dive into these. Then we have 2 of my favorite fall romances of like all time. These are both by Ashley Poston, also becoming one of my new favorite authors. We have The Dead Romantics and The 7-Year Slip. The Dead Romantics follows a ghostwriter named Florence Day. She doesn't believe in love anymore. She lives in New York, and she ends up going back home because there is a tragedy that happens in her family. And there's also a really fun element of magical realism in this one and in this one as well, which is kind of what like Ashley Poston's books are just like. And it makes it so fun and atmospheric and almost like whimsical in a way. And these books are so different than other romance books books because of the magical realism elements, and I love how unique they are, and I ate this one up. This one also had me in tears. Same with this one. This is basically about our main character Clementine, and she's also dealing with a lot of grief in her life, which I don't know if that's like a theme with her writing, but she ends up moving into her aunt's old apartment, and it has this way of bringing you 7 years into the past or 7 years into the future randomly, and you end up meeting the people that lived there before or after you. And the magical realism elements of both of these are just so unique and interesting, and I just eat up her writing. If you primarily read romance and you're looking for something a little bit different this fall, I would highly recommend both of these. The next book that I'm going to talk about is a part of an interconnected standalone series, and it just recently came out. I actually read it in a reading vlog, so go watch that if you want to see like my reactions and know a little bit more about the book. But it's a part of the Maple Hills interconnected series. I mean, you probably know about Icebreaker. It's one of the most popular book talk books of all time, and it's an OG book talk book as well. So Icebreaker is the first one, and then we have Wildfire, and then most recently we have Daydream. They're all three by Hannah Grace, and out of all three of them, I would definitely recommend Daydream for the fall time. Again, we're going back to school, which just gives me fall vibes. It's also in a college setting, so it's a little bit more adult. It's also the least smutty out of all three of the books, which I know a lot of people thought that Icebreaker was like a little bit too smutty. And in this one, it's dual POV. We're following Hallie and Henry. Let me just say, if you're the oldest sibling, or you're always micromanaging things in your family, or you're an anxious girly, you love to read, you want to be a writer, anything like that, or you're just so busy all the time or doing a lot for other people, people pleasing in any way, Hallie is going to be a character that you relate a little bit too much to. I related to her character so much, and I really enjoyed her point of view. And Henry is the captain of the hockey team. He's also a guy who just learns a little bit differently, and his brain works a little bit differently. He doesn't really know why that is, but they end up meeting through friends, and Hallie ends up tutoring Henry in a class, and we just kind of go from there. I have never related to the thoughts that I read in this book from these two characters more in another book. Like, it was just so insane. It was like they were in my head, and if you mix these two characters together, you basically just get me. The found family in here is also just unbeatable as well. I love this book, and it was really good. Highly recommend if you're gonna read any of the books from the Maple Hills series to read this one. Okay, and then we have a recent read that I found that just screams fall and cozy vibes, which is The Storied Life of AJ Fikry by Gabrielle Zevin. This book is a literary fiction. It's also really short, but the message of this book was so beautiful. If you're a reader and you want to read about a guy whose life completely changes, and he's like depressed and sad and just kind of like mad and grumpy with life, into a happy, fulfilled man, like right before your eyes, it's such a beautiful story. He owns a bookshop, and the bookshop is struggling, so he's just going through a lot in his life right now, and it's just a beautiful story of growth and change. And it's kind of a little quirky here and there. I really enjoyed the writing though, and the ending had me sobbing in tears. It was so beautiful and so heartfelt, and there's so many things about books in here that, again, if you're a reader, I think you're really gonna enjoy, specifically like some of the quotes. This is just a really beautiful story, and I feel like more people need to be talking about this book and reading this book because it's just so good. Okay, and then we have a book that I never shut up about, so sorry if you're a frequent watcher of my channel, but another book I would recommend to you if you're new to the fantasy world would be to try out Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I have all the books in the series right here. Currently the first book, a little novella, and then the second book, Reckless, is out right now, but it's gonna be a trilogy, and then I think there's gonna be one more novella. This book is dual POV. It's also enemies to lovers. It's about our two main characters, Peyton and Kai, and in here we are living in a world where there are ordinaries and elites. Elites have powers and ordinaries don't, and ordinaries are seen as almost a plague to the elite society, so they are outcast from society. Kai is the prince and also the enforcer, so he be taking care of the ordinaries, if you know what I mean. And then Peyton is an ordinary posing as an elite. So it's already a little messy, but it's so interesting. The writing is really digestible, and there's fun like masquerade ball scenes. There's trials too, which is always fun to read about. I really love this first book. It's a 5-star read for me, and I just absolutely ate it up. This is a perfect first fantasy read if you haven't gotten into it yet. Another book that just absolutely screams fall to me is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book is also a 5-star read for me. It is such a unique story about how a band came to be, and you get everybody's perspectives, and it's written as if it's an interview or like a play, so like reading it is just so interesting, and I've just never read anything like this before, and it's loosely based off Fleetwood Mac, which I love Fleetwood Mac. Their music is so good, and there's also a TV show, so you can watch the TV show after you read the book. Highly recommend reading the book first though, because the book is just, it was so insane and it was so good. There's also 2 subplots of romance in here because it's a little bit more like literary fiction, and I read this before like I really got into reading, and it was just such an easy fun read, and I found everything so interesting. So highly recommend recommend this, especially if you're wanting something a little bit different. Next up, we have a recent read, and it is called Dungeons and Dramas. I forget the author, but I'll have it up here. This is a YA romance, so they're in school, and we're following our main character, Riley. She is a theater-obsessed girly, and she gets grounded and has to end up working at her dad's game store. And she works with all these kids from school that she never really talked to or interacted with. But now she's working with them, she ends up hanging out with them, and she ends up becoming a part of their Dungeons and Dragons group. There's also a little bit of fake dating in here for one reason or another, and I used to be in the drama club at my high school, so I literally ate this up. It was so cute and fun, and I just really enjoyed it. So if you're looking for just a fun YA rom-com for the fall, I feel like this would be perfect for you. I know when I was talking about Heartstopper, I was saying that if you're looking for something with that like first love type of feeling, you should read that. But if you want that feeling again in a different book and you already read Heartstopper, you should read Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This book is talked about, and I've talked about it so much on my channel. This is a 5-star read for me, and you're following this girl Liz, and she makes a bet with this guy named Wes, who's friends with the guy that she wants to go to prom with. So the whole idea is that he helps her get him to ask her to the prom. And this book was so crazy because it was like being in the high school mindset again, and I'm 23 years old, so it was crazy to be put back in that mindset. If there's one YA romance you need to read this one. The second one comes out at the end of September, and I'm so excited about this. Again, we're in school, so it's giving me fall vibes, and everything in here is just so wholesome and sweet. I have recommended this to so many people, and they just eat it right up. This would also be a good book for one of your first reads. If you haven't really read a lot of romance, or if you're just trying to get into reading, I would highly recommend this book as your first read. These books are also talked about so much, so I'm just gonna briefly go over them. But the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy, you know I'm a scaredy cat through and through, but these were so incredibly good. These are YA mysteries, and I want to get into more YA mysteries, so when I talk about my TBR and they're not on there and you have some recs, please leave those down below. These are following Pip, and it follows her in her small town while she's trying to uncover the truth about a previous case that was in their town, and she's doing like a school project on it, and it just becomes this huge thing, and it's so interesting, and it really just had my attention from the get-go. Like, these are so incredibly bingeable. You could finish one of these in like a day. Each one has its own story, but also revolves all around the same case, and it's just so interesting to see how Holly Jackson tied everything together. And I ate these up. If you have not read these yet, this is a fall staple. And then we have the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. These are fairy tale fantasies, which I think would also be good for you if you're getting into fantasy. They follow a girl named Evangeline, and she lives in this very magical, whimsical world where literally anything can happen, and they're almost like mysteries as well. There's so many different elements to these books, and Stephanie Garber's writing is just so interesting. I absolutely love her writing. This is just such a tragic and interesting story about love and loss, and it's also a little bit of enemies to lovers as well. And let me just say, Jax in this trilogy is everything to me. Okay, I literally love him to bits and pieces. But the plot of this one is actually pretty interesting. Basically, Jax is actually a fate, which is kind of like a god in this world. And Evangeline's always been told, don't make a deal with a fate. But whenever her true love ends up wanting to marry another girl, she makes a deal with Jax. And then the journey just gets so crazy that everything from the first book to the last book is just, it's crazy how we get to the whole point. These books are so fun. They're YA. I really love this trilogy. Okay, let's go ahead and get into my fall TBR. Now, I'm so excited for this fall. There's so many books that I want to read. First up, I was talking so much about Ashley Poston's writing. She just came out with a new book called The Novel Love Story. This one also has magical realism in it. I don't know too much about it, and I kind of want to go in blind, but I know I'm just gonna eat this book up like I did the other ones because I just love her writing so much. Then we have two duologies that are at like the very top of my list. We have The Six of Crow duology by Leigh Bardugo. I read this, I think, last fall, this first one, and I need to finish the second one. I don't know why I haven't. I didn't really love this one, but I also read it really early in my fantasy journey, and I feel like it was a little bit too confusing for me to understand, so maybe I'll listen to the audiobook before I physically read the second one, Crooked Kingdom. But people love this series so much, so I need to give the second one a chance and finally finish the duology. And then we also have One Dark Window by Rachel Gillick. I ate this first one up. I am so excited to get back into the series. I was kind of putting a pause on fantasy so I could finish Throne of Glass, but now that I'm finished with Throne of Glass, oh my gosh, I'm going to eat up so many fantasy duologies and standalones. I'm so excited. This is basically like a heist fantasy. It's super interesting. There's a lot of great found family in here too. And this one is a super unique magic system. We're basically following our main character, Elspeth, and she kind of has like a monster living inside her. And then there's also these like tarot card-esque magic cards where if you tap it, you get like the power from it. And everybody's trying to collect all the cards because if you do, you can be super powerful. And there's also this infection that kind of like sweeps over the land. And if you get it, like, see ya. This is super interesting. One of the most unique fantasies I've read. It's also more gothic and dark, but I didn't find it too dark, and I don't really like super dark things. I really ate this up and enjoyed it. So I'm so excited to read the second one. Two authors that I really want to read. I really want to get into a lot of Kristen Hanna. I've heard so much about her books. My mom's even read a few of her books and absolutely eats them up and loves them. Currently, I have Firefly Lane and The Nightingale that I really want to get to. So if you have any specific Kristen Hanna recs, please leave them down below. I'm so excited to read them and get into her writing. I also really want to read a V.E. Schwab book. I've heard so much about their writing as well. I think The Vicious, I don't know if it's a trilogy or duology, but I really want to read like the Vicious series. I also want to finish the Natural series. This is basically like young adult Criminal Minds. There's 4 books in this series. I really enjoyed the first one. I read it last fall, but I just haven't been reading mysteries a lot recently. I haven't been in the mood for it, but I really want to finish this fall. I also want to get into the Inheritance Game series, which I know I'm super late to that because that's like an OG book talk book, but I've just heard they're super fast and fun, and I feel like I'd really enjoy them. I love a good YA mystery, and these are by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I also really want to read 5 Survive by Holly Black, who wrote the Good Girls Guide to Murder trilogy I was talking about earlier. I don't really know too much about that one, but I just loved her writing and ate those books up, so I really want to read something else by her. And I know I already talked about this briefly, but the sequel to Better Than the Movies comes out at the end of September. I am so excited for that. I'm literally going to eat it right up. And then we also have the Caraval trilogy. I've been wanting to read this for a while. This is in the same world that the Once Upon a Broken Heart series I was recommending to you guys is in, and it's actually before that. And basically there's just this kind of like carnival that's called Caraval, and it's about these 2 sisters, and my friend Abby read this and she ate them up. It's a trilogy, so there's 3 books. She ate them up in 1 month and she just absolutely loved them. It's very whimsical, magical, and mystery-esque and fun like Stephanie Garber's writing is, and I'm really excited to get to this. I also really want to read an Olivia Blake book. The one that I'm thinking of in general, because my friend Olivia talks about this one all the time, is One for My Enemy. This one is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, and it's also an urban fantasy. I've never read an urban fantasy, so I'm really interested to get into it. You'll notice too that I don't know a ton about the books on my TBR because I like to go in things as blind as possible so that nothing really gets spoiled for me. I don't really like reading the back of books either, but I just thought this would be really interesting and fun. I've heard really great things about it, and I've never thought of a Romeo and Juliet retelling being in a fantasy book, so I'm interested to see how that plays out. Also, can I just say that this cover is stunning and gorgeous and beautiful. Another urban fantasy series I want to get to is of course the Crescent City series. I need to finish the Massiverse. These are just huge and so daunting, so I'm just gonna wait until I'm in the mood. This is also the Barnes exclusive edition. I have the second one in the Barnes exclusive edition too. I need to buy the third one, but I just haven't yet because I'm not gonna be getting to it anytime soon, obviously, because I have to read the other 2 first. I've heard these are a little bit more mystery fantasy based too, so I'm interested to see if I like this and I'm gonna be able to catch on, because I've heard that it is a lot, but I'm really hopeful that I will enjoy these. The next one is The Trial of the Sun Queen. I saw bestie Rachel read this recently and it just looks so interesting. I heard that it was a more like adult version of The Selection, or like giving Bachelor in a way, and if it has anything to do with The Bachelor, I'm pretty sure I would eat it right up. Abby, who I mentioned earlier, who was talking about the Caraval series and wanting me to read it really bad, was also talking to me about Fear the Flames by Olivia Rose Darling. It's getting re-released and I've seen other people talk about it too. I don't know anything about it, again, but I did say if the flames are from dragons, I'm about to eat that up. So I really want to get to that whenever it gets republished. It just sounds really good, and Abby always has really great book recs. We also have The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. This also has magical realism, but it's in more of a literary fiction type writing style. People were saying this also gave Matilda vibes, which that was a movie that I watched so much growing up, so I feel like I'm gonna eat that up. And I guess it's about like this like very famous author who finally wrote the last book in his series, and he's having people like compete in a trial to get to read it. But I've just heard really great things about this, and I'm really excited to get into more magical realism books. I feel like they just give all the fall vibes. Anything magical and cozy. I mean, look how cozy this looks. I feel like this just screams fall, right? Another one I've heard that is about a magical library is Sorcery of Thorns by Miss Margaret Rogerson. I've seen a few people online read this and rave about it. They really enjoyed it, and I feel like this is gonna give all the cozy vibes. I believe this is also a standalone, and I've been looking for more fantasy standalones to not only read for myself but also to recommend to you guys, because I feel like sometimes diving into like huge fantasy series can be kind of daunting, but I'm really excited about this one as well. And this is also a YA fantasy. I don't really know anything about it other than that, but Miss Stephanie Garber does have a little blurb up here, so one can only hope that it's gonna be good. This is one that I just found on Goodreads the other day, and it looked cute and cozy, and the cover especially looked cute and cozy. It's called Rewitched. I think this is like more of like a literary fiction or a romance, but anything witchy, I'm in. I am in. If you guys have any recommendations for like witchy little rom-coms, please leave them down below. I will say I read one last year that was on Kindle Unlimited that I did not enjoy, so I am a little bit nervous to get into witchy rom-coms this year for that reason, because I think that was the only witchy rom-com that I read last year. Okay, and then the last two you guys have heavily recommended to me in the comments down below when I've been asking for books that feel like Throne of Glass, that are series that have like a very good magical and found family and just writing. So we have An Ember in the Ashes and then A Kindred's Curse, and the first book in that is The Spark of the Everflame. I know basically nothing about these. All I know is that they've been commented so many times, and I promise you guys I will read them, especially because you guys have talked about them so much, so like it makes me want to read them. Let me know if you guys want to see those specifically in reading vlogs at all, so you guys can see my reactions. We just have so many good books on the TBR for fall. I feel like it is going to be such a magical reading time. I am so pumped and excited. I hope you guys got a recommendation or two out of this video, and if you have any recommendations or any books you want to talk about, please leave them down below in the comments. And if you watched this far in the video, go ahead and comment down below one of the like orangey leaf emojis so I know who the real ones are who stayed till the end. If you want to keep up with me on the daily, go ahead and follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and on Goodreads especially if you want to keep up with me and what I'm reading in real time. Those are always linked down below. Thank you again to Pair Eyewear for sponsoring this video, and don't forget you can shop Pair Eyewear using the link in the description down below. And yeah, I think that's it. If you guys enjoyed, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I love you guys so much. I am so pumped for fall. I hope you're having a wonderful, magical, amazing day, and yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys. I broke something. Okay. Hey guys, it's Katie. Wax back. I'm sweating. Beep bop boop bop. Sarah J. Maas. But it's not that complicated.